right, good evening. My name is Eddie Williams. Me and my business partner and friend, Mark Moffat, we put on these free real estate educational training meetings monthly. They're always the third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. here in Southfield, always free. Typically, we hold them at a local Coney Island, but due to the fire that many of you probably heard about, we had to do a last-minute switch to here. And we thank the people here at Shields Pizza for graciously accommodating us at the last minute, and probably until further notice, because I'm assuming that the Coney Island is going to be closed for quite a while. We'll probably be doing the meetings right here. To everybody that's watching this either at home or on YouTube, we sincerely apologize, because I'm sure some of you probably did not see the email update, and you may have gone to the wrong place, so we sincerely apologize about that. Those of you who are local and chose to watch it online or via YouTube, we highly encourage you to come out so that you can network. There are other wholesalers here, other real estate investors, and you certainly want to come out and mingle with them. That's one of the biggest parts of these meetings. Without further ado, we are very honored tonight to have Mr. John Cleare here with us. Mr. Cleare is a wholesaler. However, he's a wholesaler with a twist. He specializes in commercial buildings and mainly apartments. He is the CEO of Clear to Close. That's C-L-E-R-E. All right, Clear to Close. And without further ado, Mr. John Cleare.
Thank you so much, Eddie. All right, everybody. Yeah, so my name is John Cleare. My company is Clear to Close. I also am a licensed broker in the state of Michigan. I have multiple agents that work up under me. So I guess I'll just start with a backstory first. I kind of like for my speaking events to be like more interactive. I don't want to just get up here and lecture to you guys. So if you have any questions, just feel free to chime in. So my background is I started real estate in 2006. It was right before the crash in 2008. I actually got into wholesaling in 2006, and I bought my first 2 properties while I was in Atlanta in 2006. So the way I got into it, I had a full scholarship to the University of Michigan. I had actually the greatest scholarship. I had the Bill Gates scholarship, right, where he pays for undergrad, grad, and PhD. My mom gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was in my freshman year, and I decided to drop out of college in my sophomore year. I made a decision a long time ago that I would never work for anybody else, ever. And my mom hated the decision at the time, but now she understands that it was the right decision. You know, real estate for me has provided a lifestyle that, you know, really can't put a price on freedom, you know, so that's what I teach, that's what I, you know, believe, and that's what I've always stood on. You know, you can't put a price on freedom. And so after I read the book, in like 2004, 2005, dropped out in 2005, and then I started, so I just jumped in, right? So I just went on Bigger Pockets, studied, you know, just the forums. So I didn't teach, you know, or like learn from any guru. So I would go on the forums, look at the wholesaling forums, and just look at what other people were doing. So I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, right? And in 2006, I just jumped in, bought my first 2 properties. Now this was back when they were giving out mortgages to anybody with a pulse. All you needed was like a 660 credit score. I bought 1 property. It was a 3-bed, 2.5 bath for like $160,000. Then I bought a 5-bed, 3-bath for like $260,000. And I bought those with no money down, right? All I needed was 3 months reserve. So I stayed in a 5-bedroom, thought I was doing big things. Later found out that that mortgage payment of $2,400 a month, and I'm 21 years old, yeah, that was kind of tough. So I ended up renting out both properties. So I became a landlord at the age of 21. Honestly, I hated being a landlord. So that's when I started like, you know, it's gotta be an easier way. So I started wholesaling. I started researching other investors that were doing wholesaling. For example, Vina Jones-Cox, she's out of Ohio. She's very popular, and I follow her. I never bought her course, but I did follow her. You know, she had like a free ebook, and she was like, yeah, you can make $10,000 with no money down, no cash out of pocket. And I'm like, really? And I'm 21 years old, so I'm like, okay, 10,000, yo, that's good. So I studied her ebook, and I just started wholesaling. And then in 2007, that's when I closed my first apartment deal. It was actually in Arlington, Texas, and it was a dope deal. It was a 40-something unit, and I never forget, the purchase price was $1.26 million. a JV with a guy out of Cali, and he had on a contract for $1 million. So the assignment fee was $260,000, and we just split it. You know, so that's when I kind of like got my feet wet in the commercial game, and I pretty much would have stood with commercial real estate, but in 2008 happened, right? So I pretty much lost all my contacts. Pretty much 90+% of them were like millionaires on paper. And you know, they were underwater with their mortgages. So a lot of them had to go back to 9 to 5s. Me, I stuck it out. I didn't do a 9 to 5. I just kept wholesaling because it doesn't matter whether it's a buyer's market, seller's market. You can always wholesale, right? So I studied the game a little bit more, tried to pinpoint, my craft and like, okay, how can I wholesale on like a larger level, right? So at the time I was in Atlanta, I came back to Michigan for personal reason. And my goal when I came back to Michigan was to become one of the top wholesalers in Michigan, right? So I looked at the other top key players, and instead of like competing with them, I said, let's JV with them, the joint venture. So I reached out to all of them. I saw that they had like a lot of inventory. So I just, built a buyers list of like over 3,000 buyers just in Michigan. And I would just send out their deals. But what I did, I never marked up their prices. I negotiated with them to just JV and include my fee in their prices. That way, it doesn't look like I'm daisy chaining and I'm not sending out properties that may or may not have already been sent out at a higher price. So that's one key point. Never send out properties at a higher price than what somebody else has sent it out. It's gonna look bad on you. And then, the buyers, they pretty much are, in the same network, so they're pretty much gonna figure it out. So after I did that, then my goal at the time was just to close 75 plus single family deals. I really didn't get back into commercial real estate until 2016. So the way I did the 75 plus deals is I never did any paid marketing, right? I did social media marketing. So I never sent out yellow letters. I never did bandit signs. I couldn't even stick the little sign on the side of my car because I had an Audi and it's aluminum frame, and like the signs won't stick. The magnetic won't stick to it. So so basically, I just used the power of social media. LinkedIn was my bread and butter. So I have over 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I added them one by one. It was very painstaking. I used to do it every day. Just add investors every single day, brokers, wholesalers, agents, title company reps. Doesn't matter. Anybody in real estate, I wanted to know them. So I just added them one by one, and that's how I built my network. It was definitely built organically. So after I achieved the 75 plus deals a year, I got burnt out. I got totally burnt out. It actually put me in the hospital. In 2016, I was in the hospital for like 6 days. And it was so bad that I was such a grinder that I even had the title company come to the hospital so I could close the deal, right? And my mom actually kicked them out, like, this is the reason that you're in here. I'm like, I know, Mom, but like, I love this. Like, and I had money in escrow because I used to double close. So I had money on the A to B side, the buyer for the B to C side put his money in, and I needed to get my money back. So I needed to close. So then I realized, that I didn't want to do 75 plus deals a year anymore. I said, okay, what's the easier way? So I have a goal in mind every year what I want to make, okay? How can I make this easier? So with commercial real estate, I can close 5 to 10 deals a year, make the same amount of money that I was making with those 75 plus deals a year, and have less stress. I can go on vacation more. I don't have to work as much. Like, I literally work, like she'll tell you, I work like less than 4 hours a week, like seriously. I work less than 4 hours a week. And it's because I just, pinpoint certain deals. I'm very picky about the deals that I want to work on. So I get referrals like every week, and I just sit back and just realize what's the most money I can make with the least amount of effort. It's that simple. And commercial real estate, like wholesaling commercial, so like the good thing about commercial is that you don't have to be licensed in multiple states. That's the thing that held me back with residential. My goal was to get licensed in like Georgia because of the reciprocity, which I could have still done, but I just said never mind. I wanted to get licensed in Texas, then I saw that you need like 270 clock hours just to become an agent. I said never mind. I wanted to get licensed in Arizona, Florida, And I said, you know what, instead of getting licensed in all these individual states, why not just do commercial real estate, because you don't need to be licensed in every individual state. You can wholesale in any state in the US without a license for commercial real estate. Doesn't matter, right? And that right there just made my mind up. Like, okay, commercial real estate is gonna be like 90% of my focus. I still do residential. People think I don't do residential anymore. I'm still a licensed broker. I still have agents up under me, and they do a lot of residential, right? But I just don't count the residential deals anymore. You know, the main deals that mean something to me, that get me up out of bed, are the commercial deals. So I'm gonna stop right here. Any questions on the commercial? Go ahead.
Okay, so you get a commercial deal under contract, and assuming that you don't have the end buyer in mind, how do you go about it? Are you prospecting yourself? Are you paying for marketing? Are you joint venturing with another wholesaler or another agent? How are you going about your business to make it the most efficient and getting those closings at the end?
Right.
Repeat the question.
So how?
No, you.
I'll repeat the question. Okay, so basically, if I have a property under contract, what's the most efficient way that I can find a buyer?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so what I like to do, I like to test the market on social media. So I'll put out like a teaser post. So if I have like a 60 unit in Florida under contract, I just say 60 unit Florida, NOI this, purchase price this. That's it, right? And then I get a lot of interest, right? And then I field out the buyers from there. So I see who's the actual buyer, who's a wholesaler, who's a broker, who's an agent, and I just, you know, like, and then I go check out their profile, see what they're about, you know, if they're for real, or are they just a tire kicker? I can kind of figure that out from what they speak about on a daily basis. And then, you know, from there, I just send them the information if I feel like it, or I may have them sign an NDA, you know, if it's my first time working with them, non-disclosure agreement. That's usually like the, you know, round one. Round two, if I want to get more like technical to find a buyer, I could just use the MLS, you know, and if I don't have MLS in that state, I can go to an agent in that state. They can look up all the cash sales, right, for the last 30 to 90 days, and I can research public record, the company, you know, and I can find out who's, you know, like members of that corporation, and I can usually find those members on social media. So that's kind of how I take the sniper approach. If all else fails, I have a buyer's list with thousands of people. You know, I can shoot out a mass blast, but I usually try to use the mass blast. Like, I actually haven't sent out a mass email in like 3 years. So it's really like a last resort. I really try not to do that.
So do your sellers know that you're wholesaling these properties?
Yeah, they definitely know. You know, so I always disclose that I am a licensed broker. However, I'm not representing you in any fiduciary capacity. You know, you are representing yourself in this transaction. I'm representing myself. I'm a principal in the transaction. I'm not your agent. You know, and that's actually embedded in my PA. So they have to sign off on it. Yeah.
So what state do you find your commercial deals the most lucrative? Would it be Florida? Would it be Arizona? Is it Michigan? I mean, where do you
I mean, right now, Tennessee is hot. Tennessee.
My daughter's in Tennessee State.
Okay, congratulations. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question for the recording?
Okay, yeah, so he said, right now, what's the most lucrative state that I'm finding commercial deals in? And I said Tennessee because we actually just closed on a hotel deal. So I just closed my first hotel deal like a month ago, and it was in Tennessee. So we not just do apartment buildings, we sell, you know, so like all commercial. So now my new focus is gonna be selling hotels. Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, storage facilities as well. You know, those are hot, you know, great cash flow, not that much overhead, don't have to worry about tenants necessarily, you know, so. Yeah, just put a code on it. So, yeah, so, you know, because I know that I kind of built my brand on apartment buildings. So apartment buildings will always be the main bread and butter, right? But we're expanding into other, you know, like facets of commercial real estate as well. Go ahead.
Is it much difference in wholesaling commercial over single family?
You know, most people would think that, but actually it's not. I'm not gonna say it's easier, it's about the same, right? So if I have, let's say, a portfolio of 20 single family houses that's all Section 8, it's no different than selling, you know, like a 20 unit apartment building. You still gotta get the 20 rent rolls, you still gotta get the P&L statement. You know, it's pretty much the same financials, essentially. And it's just easier on the end investor because you just have one roof now to deal with instead of 20 different tenants under different roofs. Yes.
Can you explain exactly what wholesaling is?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so wholesaling is basically you just assigning the contract. So let's say that you have a property in West Bloomfield that you want to sell for, let's say, $400,000, right? Let's say the neighboring comps are $700,000. The reason why you want to sell low is because let's say that it's outdated, right? Let's say that you haven't updated the property in like 20 years, right? And it has all this deferred maintenance, the roof is leaking. You don't feel like doing any rehab to the property. You don't want to invest any more money into the property. You want to sell it as is for cash as soon as possible. That's where you would contact a wholesaler. We put the property under contract via purchase and sale agreement. So in this example, $400,000. And I may or may not double close or assign. You know, if I assign, basically that's just saying that I assign my rights and interests with you as the seller to another end buyer, right? So if I want to make 20 grand on the deal, then I would assign that property for that contract for 420,000, and the buyer will pay me the 20,000 assignment fee. If I want to double close, let's say I want to sell it for 450, but I didn't want the buyer counting my pockets, right? I could use transactional funding, which is free. I don't have to use my own money or my own credit. I have a transactional funder that charges me like 1% of the purchase price. So in this case, it would be $4 grand. So he charges me $4 grand to buy the property from you for 400,000, right? I sell it for 450. So minus the $4 grand that I have to pay the transactional funder, minus the double closing costs. Now I usually try to get the end buyer to pay their set of closing costs, but I may have to pay the closing costs on the A to B side with the seller. So it may be like 5 to 10 grand in closing costs, but I still walk away with 40 grand with no money out of pocket. So that's wholesale.
Now, also, as a wholesaler, if it's a $400,000 property, the homes in the area are $700,000. Put money into, major renovations within.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So like 600.
Repeat. Okay. Yeah. So he just asked if I'm buying it from him at 400,000 and the neighboring properties are 700,000. Could I put the money in and rehab the property? Absolutely. And for a property with that type of spread, I probably would just, try to do the rehab myself. It just makes a lot of sense. Or you can wholesale it, which is another level above wholesaling. Wholesaling is just selling as is, not doing any work to the property. If I want to like clean it out, maybe paint it, like replace some carpet or just minor cosmetic work, I could do that and then just put it back on the MLS for maybe $550. So I don't know. So I don't apply for private funding. I mostly just use transactional funding, but I do have a private network of investors, cash investors that are willing to fund my properties if I want to do rehab. But right now, like rehab is not really my thing. I kind of just like to get in and out the deal as quick as possible. Yeah.
What's the purpose of the NDA when you send out information for the deal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the purpose of an NDA is really just to cover your bases, especially if you're doing business with somebody new. You don't want them contacting the seller directly. So it basically solidifies your position in the deal, and it solidifies that if that person does try to reach out to the seller directly, you're going to pay for my legal fees, and I'm going to sue you. Yep. Any more questions? Okay.
One more.
Yep.
Why did you give up the Gates?
Man, the crazy thing? I have no remorse for giving up Gates. I don't have any kids, but if I ever do have kids, I would love for them to get that scholarship, and I would instill for them to just do it, right? like just get it. Like even if you don't use the degrees, just get it. Because it's a free degree, right? But I gave it up because I realized that I never want to work for anybody else, and U of M was a great school. At the time I was going for engineering, it was industrial engineering. They were #2 in the nation, just right behind Georgia State. So, I mean, top 3 school, still gave it up, because to me that degree like they taught you how to work for somebody. I never want to work for nobody. That's why I gave it up.
What did you give up? What's the question?
Oh yeah, so I gave up a full scholarship to college. Yeah.
What markets are you currently in right now?
The top markets that I'm in right now are Michigan, Ohio, definitely Texas. Texas is hot right now. They're always developing. Like Tesla just put their headquarters in Texas. You know, Texas is hot. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, New Jersey. So those are like the top markets right now. Yeah. You know, and I can pretty much find wholesale deals nationwide. It doesn't matter what state. Like I have a vast network. I can find off-market commercial deals nationwide and buyers.
So with my deals, sometimes deals are sent to me. But I have to vet them. Sometimes when deals are sent to me, they're sent by 3 different wholesalers. A deal was sent to me, it was a 14 unit, and some wholesaler added $100,000 on top of it. He called me to direct. I believed them, which done business before, and was marketed to my list. So, how much time do you spend on vetting for people, and what's the best way to go about it?
I'll tell you like an easy way to vet. So, a lot of times they will just put the address out there. Just go to Facebook, type the address in. If it pops up in a bunch of different groups, you know, I don't touch it. Or I do the same for my email address, because I have like multiple email addresses for all my companies. I do the same thing. Then I also go to like Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, like the social media sites. Do the same thing, put the address in, or like put little key phrases that they may have used in the marketing that they sent to you. I usually can catch them 99% of the time if they're not direct. Yeah.
On the live streaming we're doing, there was a question, what is transactional funding?
Transactional funding, yeah. So it's basically, you know, so like it's another form of income. So if you've been successful or you have a bunch of money just sitting in the bank and you want to do something with it, you can make money on the same day, right? So if a wholesaler has a property for $100,000, you know, like I've actually done transactional funding for other wholesalers because it's guaranteed, because I'm sending my money to the title company, right? So it's not going to the actual person that's buying the property. And then the title company distributes that money and they use it to close the deal, and then they pay me back my money plus a fee the exact same day. So it's basically the money that a wholesaler would use to close the A to B transaction with a seller. If they're double closing, well, yeah, you know, usually just if they're double closing. You don't really need transactional funding if you're assigning a property. So.
I apologize if I missed this. What information do you look for when you're deciding which markets to look at?
Yeah, so I actually have CoStar, which is like the MLS for like commercial real estate, and they have like trends and market research, and they kind of tell you like the hottest markets right now, and it's very detailed. It's pretty expensive. You know,
What was
like
the question?
Huh?
What was the question?
What's the question again?
The question was, what does he look at to determine which markets he wants to invest in?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the market research that I do when determining which investments to invest in, I basically use CoStar, you know, which helps me research the local market, see what the trends are, see where the cap rates are, the capitalization ratios. And with commercial real estate, the higher the cap rate, like the quicker you'll get back your money, right? And cap rate is just determined by the net operating income, which is the amount of income that a property produces per year minus all expenses. So it's basically like the take-home profit. So the formula is NOI divided by the purchase price. That's the cap rate. So if your NOI is $100,000, that's what the property makes in 1 year after expenses. You buy it for $1 million, then the cap rate is 10%, right?
So if you were starting new, what would you do right now to begin in wholesale?
First thing I would do is buy, if you want to do commercial real estate, I would.
If somebody dropped you off in Chicago or
Yeah.
wherever, and they said, this is what you got to do to get paid,
Yeah.
what would be the first thing? Would you go and build you a network? Would you do driving for dollars?
No, first thing I would do is sign up to all the local RIAs and just sign up to every single one, go to them, and I would research wholesaling on Bigger Pockets because it's free. So I'm gonna try to do as much stuff for free as I can, right?
What
I'm
was the
cheap.
question?
Okay, so the question was, if I get dropped into a new market, for example, if I move to Texas tomorrow and I want to get started in wholesaling and I'm brand new, what would I do? First thing I would do is join all the local RIAs, go to them, become members. I would research wholesaling on Bigger Pockets because it's free to become a member. You don't have to be a pro member right away. I think they charge $300-400 a year. You don't need all that. And then the next thing I would do was join like the local Facebook groups in that market. So if I'm in Texas, I would join all the Texas real estate groups, get familiar with who's buying what they want, what their criteria is. And I always say that the quickest way to a bag in real estate is to JV, you know? So I wouldn't necessarily try to get my own properties under contract. I would figure out who's the top wholesalers in that market and ask them, could I JV your properties? You know, would you mind me marketing your properties to my people? And, you know, they already did the grunt work. They already got it under contract. They already have the photos. So that's the easiest way I would like get started.
Is Bigger Pockets, is that a website or is that?
Yeah, it's a website. Yeah, biggerpockets.com. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the question is, what is Bigger Pockets?
Yeah, Bigger Pockets is like the largest real estate online forum. At the time when I joined in 2008, I believe, or 2006, they only had like 30,000 members. Now they have over 2 million members of nationwide real estate investors. So it's a great resource. If you're serious about getting into real estate, you definitely want to be on Bigger Pockets. Yeah. All right.
Do you do anything with Facebook groups, real estate Facebook groups?
Do I do anything? So I have business pages on Facebook, like Clear to Close, which is like my wholesale company, and then I have Clear Realty Solutions, which is my brokerage. I'm a part of all the groups. I don't really post in them. You know, it's a lot of trolls. I really don't deal with all that. So like if I have a property, I never put my properties in the groups. You know, I kind of like to take control over the process, over the vetting process. So I'll only post it on my profile. So if you're not my friend, or if I don't make it public, you probably won't see it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Once you get an apartment under contract, typically how long does it take you to approve the property?
Okay, if it's like 50 units or less, my goal is 60 days or less, right? If it's like a 100+ unit, it may take 3-4 months. Just depend on the buyer, really. Ideally, you want to go for a cash buyer, but the higher the units that you get, it doesn't really make sense. Like even if a buyer has $10 million in their bank account and the property price is like $8 million, why would they spend $8 million, not the $10 million that they have in their account, when they can just leverage the $8 million, put down $160,000, you know, like 1.6 million, which is 20%, and just leverage the other 80% into a mortgage, right?
What was the question?
Yeah. So the question was, go ahead, repeat.
The question was, once you get a property under contract, typically how long does it take for him to move it?
To move it, yeah. So, oh yeah, you want me to repeat it? Okay. So, basically the amount of time that it takes me to move a property, it really just depends on the number of units. If it's under 50 units, I try to get in and out the deal in 60 days or less. If it's over 50 units, typically it may take 3 months or less, or 4 months or less. It just depends on your end buyer, really. Ideally, you want a cash buyer or a hard money buyer, but a lot of times, the higher the units that you get, you know, it doesn't make sense for buyers to pay cash. It makes sense for them to leverage their money, right? And that's the beauty of commercial real estate. You can build wealth through through leveraging the bank's money, right? You don't need to put down all the cash like you may need to do with like a single family in Redford, and you want to buy it real quick, so you drop 80 grand. You don't have to do that in commercial, you know. So.
Do you have to put equity plays? Instead of taking a fee, do you take equity?
You mean like a syndication?
Well, not a syndication, but let's say, for example, there's a deal. Instead of you taking cash, you would say, I want 5% equity. That would have been the fee.
Oh, okay. No, I never do that. I want my money right here, right now. Right here, right now. I don't do the long-term plays like that. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. You know, if the numbers made sense, I would be open to it. Yeah. Or like a mix and match, right? A fee plus equity.
Yeah, that's what you call it.
Yeah, mix and match. Yeah.
I don't want to be a busybody.
Huh?
I said, I do not want to be a busybody.
Okay.
But however, could you explain what novation is and how that works? Like, I guess to be in a novation where you're like the creator of the group?
Oh, like a syndication?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you generally have like general partner and then limited partners, right? So typically what I've seen with syndications, for example, there was a 96 unit in Southfield.
You know come up often, by the way?
Yeah, like if you're in the network, they do. Yeah, so I get syndication opportunities to my email like every month. Typically, a lot of GPs will offer like the limited partners like an 8% preferred interest. You know, so that's pretty much what you get paid, like the 8% of the profit split. We've tried to set up a couple of them, but the deal just kind of fell apart. So I haven't done any syndications myself where I've established it. I have invested in like REITs, you know, like real estate investment trusts, stuff like that, you know, like hands-off stuff like that. But I do have opportunities that come up, you know, for syndications, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about the old abandoned hotel in Southfield? What's going on with that, and how come nobody's bought that?
So it was funny because I was there for opening day. I actually know the previous owner, so I gotta be nice because she may see this. That would be a dope deal to get. Okay, so the question was, what about the hotel? It used to be the Embassy Suites in Southfield. She turned into the Ramada. I think she spent about $2-3 million on the renovation, and it was so like disheartening because opening day was the exact day that they announced COVID. And the mayor of Southfield was there, I was there, we all were there, and it was just so, like, she just spent millions on the renovations, and the building was nice. It was really nice. And yeah, it's like a barren wasteland now. So that would be a good deal to pick up.
And the other one is down by Northland.
Yeah, you're talking about that, yeah, it started with an R.
Yeah, it was behind the Sapphire.
Yeah, behind the Sapphire, yeah. I'm familiar with that one too. That owner, he wanted, I think, 4.2, like around 2015, 2014, because I approached him. And I was just like, nah, I'm not paying $4 million for it at the time. It just wasn't worth it. And you see it's been vacant ever since. It's been vacant ever since.
Now, I heard that the State Plaza, where the state police used to be, the black building along the Live Freeway, that nobody will touch it because of the HVAC. And I'm like, okay, I know those are all factors that go into buying it, but as a wholesaler, you don't worry about that because
I don't worry about it. Actually, the majority of the apartment buildings I've sold have been completely vacant, needing full rehab. So, you know, it doesn't matter. So the old ugly buildings, I can still make money off that. You know, there's some buyer that would be like, oh, you know, the average price per unit in Michigan and Detroit is $50,000, $60,000, whereas in Cali it's $500,000. So to them it's a deal. They'll still pick it up, rehab it, you know. So it's all about just taking yourself out of your mental, you know, like surroundings and just realize that there's buyers nationwide that will look at this ugly property as like a cash cow. Yeah.
There's a person online that wants to know, like, when you're going to buy something, how do you determine your buy price and how do you determine what your percentage of profit is? In other words, how do you analyze the deal?
Okay, so how do I analyze a deal? With residential, of course, you just go by the sold comps, so you want to go by the MLS sold comps, right? With commercial, you have a couple different methods. You could go by the sold comps, but really, a lot of commercial properties are valued based on the income that they generate, right? So just like I just gave you the example of the cap rate, the net operating income divided by whatever the asking price is. And the beautiful thing about commercial real estate is that you can always force appreciation. So if you can raise the rents, if you can rehab the property, you can force the appreciation. It doesn't matter what the surrounding comps are. Maybe, you know, you're in an area where the surrounding comps are $100K a unit, right? If you raise the rent significantly, it doesn't matter. You can sell your building for $120K per unit. So it's not based off those surrounding comps. That's the beautiful thing about commercial real estate. So So to answer the question, first I start with the surrounding comps. If I'm not getting the number that I want, like if I want to sell the property for higher and it's generating income, then I go off the pro forma, right? So the pro forma is if you raise the rents or if you do these list of improvements, what's the potential end value that this property could be worth? And I can sell it based off the projected value. So it doesn't have to be actual, it could be projected. Go ahead.
So, almost the same question itself. When the property is not at
You said what? If the property's not occupied?
Yeah. You got apartment building.
Yeah. It's not cash flowing. I mean, you still got to be reasonable. Like, so it's not cash flowing. Does it have squatters or is it just completely vacant? Yeah, completely vacant. Yeah. So if it's completely vacant, then you pretty much are limited to the surrounding comps, right? You know, you really can't base it off the capitalization income approach. So you got to base it off the surrounding comps. But if you get lucky, you can find an out the country buyer. You can still sell it for a premium, which I've done. You know, so sometimes you got to think bigger than your local market. Maybe your local buyers are like, you know, tight and you know, they're well aware of the market and, you know, but, you know, you may get somebody out of state. Because at the end of the day, what's the number one rule of real estate? A property is worth what you can sell it for. Okay, period. So if I can sell it for more, I'm going to sell it for more.
How do you find out-of-country buyers?
LinkedIn. Yep, LinkedIn. Go ahead.
If you own any commercial property or apartment building,
You said, do I own any?
or you just wholesale?
Yeah, so I have like multiple JV partners and I have like multiple companies. So some of those companies own buildings. Right. Go ahead.
Okay, you said you gain a network on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
Is that your main source of deals and buyers?
Now, right now, I'm 100% referral based only. How do you? Yeah, it was time. It was time. Like one by one. I'm telling you. So they have limitations in place. So if you have the money, I would become a LinkedIn premium member because they kind of raise the limits on how many people you can add. Typically, it's like 100, 200 people a day as a LinkedIn premium member. And huh?
Reaching out to them as well, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for,
Well.
or this is what I'm doing.
So I kind of let my social media posts kind of speak for itself. So I talk a lot of, so I put a lot of stuff out there on social media, and it may sound a little outlandish, but the funny thing is I eventually accomplished that. So like before I was selling apartment buildings consistently, I would just put out there because I saw a niche. No other wholesaler in Michigan was really consistently selling apartment buildings. I filled that void, and now people know me as like the apartment guy. So I look for voids and I try to become that authority. I don't own property in Canada. I've actually never wholesaled property in Canada. I've had opportunities. It's just like Canadian prices are kind of high, so I don't really touch. Yeah, I don't really touch Canada. All right. Oh, go ahead.
For apartment buildings, what's your minimum number of units that you wholesale?
For apartment buildings, the minimum number of units would be the minimum number of units that they would consider to be an apartment. 5 units. I wasn't trying to be smart, but like I will wholesale anything, it doesn't matter. So I don't have certain criteria, like I don't touch, anything less than 20 units. That's what buyers do. Me, actually the majority of the apartment units that sell are 20 units or less because more buyers can afford that. So I'm never too good to do a 10-unit apartment building, an 8-unit apartment building. I'll sell it all, doesn't matter. Yep.
So when it's wholesale residential, you look for like 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms?
Yeah, so typically for a single family, I try to stay away from the 2 beds. They just don't resell that good, and a lot of investors don't want them. So okay, yeah, so she asked what's the minimum number of bedrooms that I usually go for single family, and that's 3 bedrooms. Most investors want 3 or more beds, If it's a tight market, you know, where it's not that much inventory, then buyers may loosen their criteria and they may take a 2-bedroom. I would say that there'll be more potential to do a 2-bedroom in the suburbs, not the inner city. All right, well, it's been fun. You can follow me on social media. Everything is Cleare to Close. So Cleare, CLEARE, TOCLOSE. Cleare to Close, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. Everything is Cleare to Close. Just follow me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, John. We really appreciate him coming out tonight and sharing all his information, his vast wealth of knowledge. As I mentioned at the beginning, we always have these free meetings the third Tuesday of every month. In the past, we had them at a local Coney Island, but due to a fire, we have moved it here till further notice. So we will be back in July, third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. with another speaker. And again, if you are local, please come out and network, because we have lots of real estate investors here in the room, and networking is one of the biggest parts of coming out to these meetings.
Where do we go?
We're right here at Shill's Pizza, 10 Mile and Telegraph. I believe the address is 25101, but we're Shill's Pizza, 10 Mile and Telegraph in Southfield, Michigan. Alrighty, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.